hear me? Is that any better? Do we still have that? No? Anything now? I'm hoping. I'm sorry, guys. Oh, boy. Oh, what is going on here with this? What is going on with this? Let's see. Can you now? I think we got it. Okay. Anything? Okay, there we go. All right, I'm sorry. I'm not sure what happened, but all right, there. My friend just texted me, so we were in. I apologize. It's kind of embarrassing. I'm not sure what happened. I didn't really do anything. So, anyways, but the news that I was going to say was Top Rank today in ESPN. There was a story broke on Front Row Sports saying that ESPN is not going to renew with Top Rank, and if they get another deal, that they can leave right away. So, what does that say to me? That is really kind of interesting. And I think that, you know, that might be saying that you see UFC going in there with that Zuffa boxing that they've been talking about. That's the only thing I can think of. It might be something going on with Turkey Outlaw Sheik and them working in conjunction, because I know that they have talked and worked together quite a bit. So that might be what is going on, but that I think is going to be a really big story. And I'm going to have a story on this from a little bit of a different angle tonight. And I just want to throw this at you guys. I think the Super Bowl was streamed this year on Tubi. There was 127.7 million viewers on all platforms. So it was on NFL digital networks, it was on Tubi, it was on some Spanish language digital networks, and of course it was on Fox. Fox had 111 million of those viewers. That meant that 87% of the people who watched the Super Bowl in the United States watched it on Fox on television. Last year, it was on CBS. They had 123 million people total watch it. 120 million of those people watched it on CBS. That was 97%. So in 1 year, it went 10% down from one to the other. So that is telling you that streaming is really picking up. But having said that, what I'm going to write in my column, and I think this is really something to be scary about if you're in a sport like boxing, there is no free TV in boxing if ESPN gets out of the boxing business, right? There's no free TV, over-the-air TV, any cable, any of that kind of thing that'll have boxing. And how do you run a business when everything has to be paid, when people are so used to turning on the TV and you can still now watch NBA games and Major League Baseball and NFL and hockey and golf and every other sport for free? If you lose it for boxing, that is really going to be a death knell for the sport in the U.S. I think that is something to keep an eye on. I have to put this on the screen. I know you're making fun of me, but we're going to put that on the screen anyways, because James, Kevin Iole says is the greatest media member ever in MMA. So I like to appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you very much. And look at this. I would have thought it this week from my YouTube comments, right? A lot of people did not agree with my commentary after UFC 312, and so let me kind of comment about that, and then you can pop your questions in there, and we'll get out to questions. So I did a commentary, and I also wrote a column on KevinIole.com. where I talked about I was not pleased with the main event of the fight. And like, it was a kickboxing match, number one, and this is MMA, and there's a lot of kickboxing matches that are fun and everything, and that you go there's no issue with just having a kickboxing match per se. But I kind of thought, Strickland's fighting that defensive style, and yes, DDP was going forward. Yes, DDP was throwing a lot of shots, and he was throwing a lot of hard shots. But he did not do anything outside of trying to, basically do a kickbox. And I thought, hey, try something that will change things up. Maybe try to take him down and see how that affects things. And that's what I was critical of. Obviously, Strickland fought such a defensive fight, and he took few risks. And I think that's what was the biggest reason, that the fight did not play out the way I think a lot of people thought it would play out. But I also felt like, DDP is now the champion, and he's defended the title. This was his second title defense. You thought he would have been able to find a way. I don't know if you guys agree or disagree. I was getting lambasted in the comments, and so that was something to say. Just signed International Fight Week is June 28th. Hopefully, Hamzat versus Dricus. I actually texted Dana today to see what they were up to. They had their matchmaking meeting, which they have every Tuesday. I didn't get a response, so I'm wondering if he's even back in Las Vegas yet. So they may have had their meeting elsewhere. So that I don't know that, but I was just kind of curious myself. I think that Dricus versus Hamzat is going to be the next middleweight title fight. When it happens is going to be the question. I think, that fight, and there's odds out on that fight already, by the way. Sportsbetting.ag has it minus 200 for Hamzat and plus 160 for DDP. So, DDP as the defending champion with 2 successful title defenses is already got odds up, and DDP is the underdog. A little bit of a surprise there. So my man MMA Joey, last week, Joey, I want you to know that we were doing this chat, and if you look up at the very top of the chat, you will see King Terzi's comment, and he made the point that he wanted to see you fight MMA Guru. I said, hey, I'll try to get them both on, and I know last week when I talked to you, you were willing to go scrap. So we'll see if the Guru is. I am not advocating fans any fights, but I got a kick out of that. But Joey, I agree with you that Strickland was primarily at fault, but I kind of felt like DDP as the champion should have tried something different. He's the guy that says he wants to be the greatest of all time. He's the guy that's in the pound for pound top 10. He's the guy that thinks he should be ranked higher than he is. So in my view, hey, if you think in those things and you want to make a statement and you want to be the greatest of all time, then go ahead and do that. And so I really appreciate, how good he is. But I think that he should have taken a risk, and that's why it did not. My man Pat, thank you for the contribution. I appreciate that greatly. Thank you so much. I think if you got Guru on the channel, it would be great. I will put everybody on. I was surprised to see that DDP didn't try to wrestle at all. I absolutely agree. That's what my column was about. That's what my commentary was about. And I didn't think it was that controversial, right? And then I saw, a lot of the fighters agreed with me. They were making some of those comments. And the fans were just like tearing into me. So I'm like, oh, well, that's the way, that's life in the big city. That's the way it goes. I think, I am going to have Dricus' coach on, by the way. He said yes. We're just trying to work out a time. But Morning Visser, I'm going to have him on hopefully this week, maybe next week, to talk about the fight, to talk about Dricus's development, all those kind of things. So I'm hoping that happens this week, but it could push into next week. But that is a done deal, just a matter of time. I told him I would get up in the middle of the night here. I live in Las Vegas, he's in South Africa, so we're on a little bit of a different time zone. But I would do it at any point so that we could get him on and talk to him. Let's see what else we have here. The challenger must prove they are superior to the champ first and foremost. Yeah, I think that's true to a large degree. I mean, you gotta win the fight, right? Strickland was fighting, to me, like not to get knocked out. That's kind of what I thought. And while maybe in my commentary, in my column, that is my fault, right? Maybe I should have said, hey, Strickland is largely to blame here. I was just saying I didn't think the champion did enough to try to change the way the fight was going. He was content to he was winning. So, they say, win today, look good tomorrow. Maybe that's the philosophy he took. But, when you're calling out Alex Tejeda after the fight and you're saying you want to be the greatest of all time, you're saying you want to go up. And as much as I think Conor McGregor is a goofball, what he's doing now and everything, hey, at least when he was on top, look at the things that he did. He went after the double championship. He tried to make the big fights and do the big things. And I think that, somebody like Dricus, who has that ability to be the pound for pound best in the world, I'm not going to see has the ability to be the best of all time, but, Dricus is a talented guy. And I just kind of felt like he could have done more. That's all I'm saying. I am not blaming him for that. So I hope that made sense. So let's see here. What else do we have? If Hamzat beats DDP, is Hamzat versus Pereira bigger than Jones versus Aspinall? I mean, that is a really good question. I think Jones versus Aspinall is a phenomenal, a massive fight for a number of reasons. Let me start with, you're going to have two of the biggest countries that have the most enthusiastic fan bases involved in that. So the UK fans are massive. They love their fighters. When one of their guys is fighting for a championship, it becomes a huge event. I think, and then in the United States, not that Jones is like this beloved figure, but MMA is a big sport in the United States. And I think that there would be a lot of interest in that fight here. You go to Hamzat versus Pereira, I don't think Hamzat has totally crossed over yet outside of the hardcore MMA fans, right? Like, I think we all know, the people who live and die MMA, the people who watch this every show, we all know how good he is. We all know how good Alex is, so we know how big of a fight that's going to be. I'm just not sure, Dr. Frizz, that the general public out there knows that. And so that is something that I'm going to probably lean, after having said all that, I'm going to lean and say Jones versus Aspinall would be bigger. Strickland needs to change his style in rematches. I think Strickland needs to be more aggressive, period. Like, think of the fight with Nasruddin Imavov, right? Strickland wore him down, but he threw a lot of punches. He moved forward. He landed a lot of clean shots, and he has the power to hurt guys, right? I don't think he has the kind of power that Poatan has, right? I mean, Poatan hits you and you're out. Strickland, though, has the kind of power that's going to mess you up, and as the fight wears on, he'll get to a point where he might be able to stop you. And so as a result, I think Strickland should be more aggressive. That's really what I think is going on. So anyways, let's see here. Costa versus Nickal, rumored to be announced this week. How do you see that fight playing out? If I did not see the Paul Craig fight, I would have said to you, Bo Nickal all day. I will say right now, Bo Nickal, but I won't say Bo Nickal all day, right? I think, it's become more of a fight in my mind based on what I saw from Bo Nickal against Paul Craig in New York. I know Bo thinks he fought well in that fight, and Bo is a professional fighter and I am not, so he has a better opinion than I do, but he's also biased in that case, right? And I know what I saw, and I know Paul Craig isn't even what the former Paul Craig was, right? Paul Craig wasn't the same guy, and that he used to be. He wasn't the same guy that even beat Jamal Hill a couple of years ago. And so, I think Bo, that was just a blah fight for Bo. But Bo is a superior athlete. He's a really smart guy. He's got that unbelievable wrestling. And I think he goes up against Costa. I could see him saying, you know what, I'm going to prove everybody that I am worth the hype. I'm as good as people have said I am, and I can see him doing that. But I can also see Costa, saying, okay, you know what, this guy had trouble with Paul Craig, and Costa's confidence is one that's up and down. For a veteran fighter, that is really surprising. But his confidence is one that I think doesn't isn't always what it should be. So let's see, what do we have here? Paulo Costa told the Guru he would be announcing his fight this week, so we will see about that one. Pereira smashes Strickland in one. He smashes DDP. I don't know that he smashes him, right? I think as it stands right now, I would favor Pereira, but Pereira's going to fight aggressively, and that's going to open up some opportunities for Dricus. Dricus has that wrestling. Dricus is incredibly strong. And hey, look, Israel Adesanya was able to knock out Pereira at middleweight. Now that this is going to be a couple of years later, if they ever fight, it's going to be that much harder for Poatan to make the weight. So if he does go down and do it again, there are reasons to think that Dricus could do well in that fight. So, I don't have to make a pick on that fight now, so I'm not going to. But I mean, I would disagree with you that, if you're saying that Dricus doesn't have a chance, I think that, that he does. So let's see. What do we have here? Do you have any picks for any fights you're excited in general for the Apex card this weekend? I should mention, I interviewed Jared Cannonier yesterday and Gregory Rodriguez today. Gregory was really good today. Had a good time talking to him. I've got the card up. I have not looked at it from a numbers standpoint, a betting standpoint. So, I am not sure who my picks are going to be yet. I think the fight that I like on the card is the co-main event. I do like Calvin Kattar versus Youssef Zalal, so that should be a fun fight. I think the main event, has a chance to be a fun fight. We know Robocop is going to bring it. I want to see how Jared, Jared is almost in a do or die situation right now. He's lost 2 in a row, lost a title shot a few years ago. He needs a win in this fight. And if he gets knocked out by Gregory Rodriguez, it might happen to him like happened to Jairzinho Rosenstrike the other day, and he might be cut. That is going to be something that I think is interesting and that we need to see play out. So he should be fighting. With desperation. Early prediction for DDP versus Chimaev. I just like Chimaev, Pat, and thank you once again. I just like Chimaev in that fight. I think Chimaev is one of the best fighters in the world. So I had Chimaev. I'm trying to think when this was ranked way up high in the pound for pound rankings, and I kind of moved him down a little bit largely because of inactivity. Like I had dropped him down and then moved other people up. But I think Khamzat is a phenomenal fighter. And I think, his wrestling is going to carry the day there. I think he's got powerful striking. It'll be interesting to see how he handles DDP style. But I would like Khamzat in that fight right now, especially at that number. That's a pretty good number, I think, minus 200. I think I would lay that money and go in that direction. Alejandro said, Sean Strickland's coach said he is going to quit if he doesn't change his style. I did not see that. Eric Nicksick said that. If Eric Nicksick said that, I did not see that, Alejandro. I don't know the full context of Nicksick's comments. Let me text him. I'm going to text Nicksick and see if I can get him to come on with us. And if he's available, we'll ask him that question, right? So here, I'm going to text him right now. Are you in Vegas? So I'm going to just see if I can get him to pop on with us. If he's back, you know, I don't know if he stayed in Australia or whatnot. So if he's here, I'll see if I can get him to pop on, and we will ask him that question. But I did not hear him say that, so I myself, you know, I don't want to comment about that. Oh, he's here. So hang on one sec. So let's see. Hang on. I'm texting Eric Nicksick right now. Jump on a live chat for we are talking. So I'm just sending them this, excuse me. So hopefully we can get him on here right now. So if he's there, we'll pop him in, and I'll ask him that question. So that's the best way. That's the best way I know of to answer it, because I did not hear him say that. So, whoops, I gave him the wrong link. So sorry about that. So let me do it this way. I'll try him one more time. I sent him the wrong link. So we'll do it here. Here we go. All right. So I sent him the correct link now. So we should get him in. So hopefully if he sees that, he'll pop in, and I will ask him that question, and you guys can ask him any questions if he comes in. Khamzat is either loved or hated. Why do you think fans hate Chimaev? You know, he's a trash talker. So there's some people that love trash talkers. There's other people that don't. You know, some fans, you know, there were Leon Edwards fans. They think he ducked Leon Edwards. I don't think he ducked Leon Edwards, but that's what some people think. You know, all those kind of things, right? And so as a result, you know, I think that's why some people dislike him. I also, hey, let's be fair, right? You know, he's Russian. There's a lot of Americans that, you know, don't like Russians. I think that plays into part of it too. But I think it's a combination of reasons. You know, but his trash talking is funny sometimes. So some of the people that don't mind trash talking, you know, they think it's pretty good. So, anyways, let's see. Nasruddin beats Strickland in a rematch. You know, it'd be interesting. That might be a good fight to make, right? I know Imavov wants to get the title fight over Khamzat. I just don't see how they could possibly do that. And you know, to me, it just doesn't make any sense. So it has to be Chimaev versus DDP for the championship. And so I think Strickland versus Imavov would be a good fight. There's a couple other fights. I think, you know, Bahayo would be a good fight for him. So there's some other ones out there that I think are good. I think Sean Strickland, Nicksick is replying right now, by the way, so we'll see what he says. Strickland is too focused on defense. He needs to throw a ton of volumes like he did to break Abus. Okay, he just said he's cooking dinner. So I'm just telling him what we said. So I just told him what we said. So that was all. So anyways, he said, give me a minute. So he's going to pop in. So I'll just tell him so there we go. He's going to pop in a couple minutes. So we will have Eric Nicksick popping on here in a second. So when he does, and that'll be good. So that'll be fun. Anyways, let's go move up here. Strickland is too focused on defense. He needs to throw a ton of volume like he did to break Abus. That's what I was saying in my column. That's what I was saying during my commentary that a lot of people did not like. And I mean, I understand why he's focused on defense, and I think defense is very important. And then the jab, the punch that he throws the most, is a very important punch. But you got to do something other than just a teep kick and a jab. There has to be more in there. You know, you're going to beat some guys just because you're talented and everything. but you do have to do more than just that. So I would agree with you. We will hear what Eric has to say. So and that'll give a chance. So let's see here. Imavov moved up to #1 over Strickland. Hopefully that doesn't mean he's next before Chimaev. I don't think it means he's next. I mean, think of think of all the fights that have happened. We had my man, if MMA Joey is still here, he went apeshit over the fight in UFC 307. What's Pereira versus Khalil Roundtree, right? Didn't like that fight. He was ranked #8. The UFC, they try to go by the rankings, but if they know Khamzat is next. So unless Khamzat has something personal that he can't go, that's why they wouldn't give him the fight. But I think if everything is cool and nothing, there's no external reasons preventing him from being able to do it, I think that he'll be the next shot, and the rankings won't make any difference in that regard. Let's see, what do we got here? Very reasonable take on DDP versus Sean. It was a bit different because it wasn't a true #1 contender, but Islam went out there and finished him and wanted to make a statement. Yeah, I mean, Islam did what you expect a champion to do versus a guy down in the field who didn't have a chance to train for you, right? Went out there, was authoritative, took care of business, and got rid of him. And that is something that, I think is really important. Relating that, to this fight, I mean, Strickland has to say, hey, this might be my last title opportunity. If I lose to Dricus, I've now lost back-to-back, title fights to this guy. And, there's a lot of other people out there. I thought he should have fought with a greater sense of urgency. So that is something, we'll see. I think, there's Nicksick. Let's bring him on. Well, I told you we promised to deliver the A+ guest on here. And look who shows up, but Coach Eric Nicksick. And you can see the question on the screen. Somebody had said earlier that you made a comment, or they said Strickland's coach, that Strickland's coach needs to punch more. Did you say he needed to throw more punches, or were you critical of Sean's output?
Yeah, it was. I wanted to get him on the cross more, throwing the right hand. I wanted him to believe in that right hand more in the fight. Like I thought he was doing a good job with the jab. He was prodding well with the jab, but just following up with the jab. Essentially, that's kind of what I wanted him to get his rhythm on, because that straight right that he has, I mean, that's the one that he dropped Izzy with, as we all know, and it's a great punch for him. But to get that rhythm of Dricus and respect with the power, he wasn't getting it off the jab alone, so we needed to start setting some other stuff up.
One of the things we were talking about is a lot of people were saying, Sean has fought and does fight too defensively. And I just answered a question, Eric, where I said defense is important, but you can't win against the elite guys in the world, throwing jabs and teep kicks. How do you respond to that criticism?
No, I agree with that. And I look at it like this, me being a football guy, it's like if you're running a wing tee or a running type of offense, you can get up on teams early with that same type of offense. The problem with it is if you're down, do you have a type of offense that can come back if you're down by 20 or 25 and score quick and things like that? And Sean doesn't really have that repertoire if he's just staying on the jabs and teeps. But those things set up other things very well. And that was the thing I think we were kind of searching for in the fight, was like just finding something extra, something more to try to get the band playing and get the momentum back on our side.
I want to ask you, you probably didn't see what I wrote or my video, but I was critical of the fight, and I was more critical of DDP than Sean, even though I think, Sean's defensive style, like I said, hey, I didn't think Dricus did anything to try to finish Sean, right? I thought he just stayed in that kickboxing. He didn't mix things up and everything like that. And by the same token, I kind of felt like Sean, fought a typical Sean fight, right? Sean wasn't looking for a finish. Do you think I'm wrong? I got blasted in the comments, your eyes are too old, you're over the hill. Like, do you think I was unfair to Dricus? You were in the opposite corner. You saw what he was doing to your guy. By me saying, hey, you're the champion of the world, saying you want to be the greatest of all time, and you're not finishing this guy who's basically only jabbing you. Was I wrong for that?
No, I understand your evaluation on that, and I kind of here's what I look at it too, Kev, is like when Izzy fought Romero, it was kind of an underwhelming performance, but Izzy was doing just enough to get by and win the fight, and that was what like you want to hold on to those pay-per-view points and to be able to do all those things as a champion and make your money. So I think with that being said, that Dricus knew that Kevin was, or that Sean wasn't gonna maybe hurt him as the rounds were continuing on, and he just really just kind of went in cruise control. I don't take anything away from him for that, but I understand your evaluation on that.
Yeah, no doubt here. So now, do you know a person named Rick Allen?
Rick Allen, no.
So there's a guy on here. So he was afraid. He said Eric would never be shown in public without a hat. So I didn't know if he knew you or. There we go. There it is. So look, hey,
it's just my bedhead.
So before we let you go, because I know you're getting ready to eat your dinner, and I don't want to keep you any longer than I have to. What do you think is next for Sean? What would make sense for Sean? And then who else do you have coming up fighting soon?
I think it's just an evaluation with Sean, like kind of sit down and see where his head's at, and where's his motivations lie, and kind of, is it maybe it's more of a let's say novelty fights, but maybe it's more like a matchup fights that you want to kind of showcase your fights with, your skills with, or hey, do you want to climb back and try to get back into a world title? I really don't know at this short of a notice with him, but there are some fun fights for him to make, I think. But really, I think it's like, just kind of fresh and just try to figure out what he wants to do and go from there. Next, this weekend, I have Edmund Shabazian. Started working with Edmund this camp. It's been a lot of fun, man. He's a uber talented kid, and just can't wait to see him go out and showcase what he can do. One of the best athletes I've worked with in a long time, man. It's been a lot of fun.
He's getting Dylan Budka. How do you see what's the key in that matchup?
Oh, Dylan's tough, grimy wrestler, gritty fighter. He's just kind of one of those guys that really comes forward a lot, comes forward with a lot of pressure, and as we've seen, that's sometimes where Edmund has his issues. So I expect Evan to be surgical, to be tactical in this fight, and utilize his full skill set that he has, and he's good everywhere, man. So if we get taken down, it's no problem. But look for Edmund to hunt for that knockout.
Last question for you about Edmund. When he was with Ronda Rousey, he got a lot of attention. Maybe he was pushed too soon because he was with Ronda, and Edmund Tarverdian was hot at the time. I have thought recently when I looked at him that maybe his confidence was shot. Have you had to spend time working on his confidence and rebuilding his confidence?
I think the confidence comes just from the success in the room and being able to train with guys like Sean Strickland and Chris Curtis and Brad Tavares, and the 85-pound division that we have in the room is just super deep. And Edmund's right there in the thick of things when he trains with those guys. So I think being around those types of individuals builds your own confidence when like, okay, I can hang with these guys. I can hang with the former champion. I get to train with Johnny Eblin. I get to train with these other guys that come into Extreme. So by that alone, I think that helps him a ton. But then as a coaching staff, we have to kind of let go of the past, and I think guys live in the past so much they think that's what their future holds, and it's like, man, that was that one fight. We got to get away from that and start focusing on what you're capable of, and the sky's the limit for them.
Sure, good stuff, Coach. I'll let you go eat dinner. I appreciate you as always. I'll see you on Saturday over at Apex.
Yeah, my pleasure, brother. I'll see you on Saturday.
Bye. All right, that was Coach Eric Nicksick. How about that? So appreciate him for popping on with us. So let's get back to the questions. Where was I at here? I'm going to try to pick up the place where I was. But see, like I thought, Alejandro, when you said that, I thought you were talking about he made a comment after the fight. Fortunately, we got we got that clarified, but I didn't realize you were talking the corner work is what you were saying. So let's see here. Bo would be very well served by getting away from the yes men he's got around him. He's got an incredibly high ceiling, but needs a lot more constructive criticism. Larry, I'm going to disagree with that. I think he's got a good team, and I think Bo is a smart guy. And I think up until the last fight, what more do you want out of him, right? I mean, he's destroying guys, and the fights aren't close, and blah 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 blah. So I don't know what more you want out of him. I mean, if we want to say that was a bad fight, and I agree with you, I didn't like that fight, but if we want to say that was a bad fight, that's the only bad fight he's had, and he's a young fighter fighting veteran. So, I am going to give him a pass on that one. Let's see here. Do I reckon that 205 has enough stars? Well, let me pull up. Let's just look at the UFC rankings right now, so we can take a look, so I don't miss anybody. I mean, I think that I think right now they have some talent, but let me just look at it and make sure I'm not missing anybody. So Pereira is one of the most exciting fighters in the sport. I'm going to skip Ankalaev for a second. I think he's a special case, and I'm going to talk specifically about him. I think Prohaska is a star, and he's a fun guy. People love watching him. He's entertaining. Jamal Hill's become the bad guy. I think Jamal Hill's in bad need of a win, and not just a win, but an impressive win to kind of reestablish himself. I don't think Alexander Rakic is a star, but he's a fun fighter. He's like one of those, what I call pack guys, right? You're in the middle of the pack, and you can put up a good fight, you can challenge and beat a lot of the top guys. Not many of the bottom guys are going to beat you. You're going to be entertaining, et cetera, et cetera. So I think when I look at Rakic, so I think he's qualifies as good. I think Carlos Oberg has been impressive. I like what he's been doing as he's on the rise. Khalil Rountree, I mean, we saw him with the champion, and plus, what a great guy Khalil Rountree is. There is no better human in MMA than Khalil Rountree. Believe me when I tell you that. He is a good man, a good kid, and I think, if he ever gets a big win, if Poatan goes to heavyweight and Khalil were to become the champion, I think people would love this guy. That's the kind of guy he is. So, that we're going 8, 7 down there, and the champion being 8. Now talk about Ankalaev. I think Ankalaev is one of the best mixed martial artists on the planet. He's not in any pound for pound that I know of, but he's got an incredibly diverse game. He's got the ability to stop you. He's got the ability to submit you. He is not just a Dagestani wrestler who's going to take you down and hold you down. He can strike. And so I mean, I think 205 is looking pretty good. Plus, when you go down, I think there's guys starting to come up. I think Bogdan Guskov is going to be pretty good. And I still think Johnny Walker has a chance to develop and turn into something. Sometimes guys get pushed and everything too soon, like I mentioned about Edmund Shabazian. And then, it takes him a while to figure things out. I think Johnny might be a guy that is that same way. And so let's just go there. So anyways, where are we at here? Vadim Nemkov has looked great in his last 2 fights. I mean, I like Nemkov as a fighter quite well. Myself, and then the follow-up question was, do you think he'd be a good add to the UFC division? Do you think he'll sign there? Personally, I have not talked to Vadim in a long time. I do not know if Vadim could make 205, but I think that would be his best weight class. While he is kind of the size weight-wise of some of the top UFC heavyweights right now, I think he's 240 something. That's right around where John Jones is. Aspinall's bigger, but I think that's right, in the ballpark where the champion right now is. But height-wise, I don't think he's there. I think he would be a better fighter, at light heavyweight if he can make light heavyweight. But I haven't had a chance to talk to him recently. I do think the UFC is interested in him. I don't know how far they're going to willing to go financially because of his age and some other things, but I think they are interested in him if he's on the market. And so I think that you might see that, but I think they would be more interested in him as a 205er than a heavyweight myself. And then your question about Aaron Pico. I talked to Ali Abdelaziz last week, and he was eager to get Pico out on the market. Dana White said at UFC 311 that they are absolutely interested in Pico when he became a free agent. So I am assuming that they are talking to Pico right now, and trying to get a deal done with him. And I think Pico is a guy, another one. I remember interviewing him before his first fight, and I was talking to Freddie Roach, the great boxing trainer, and a bunch of different wrestling coaches about Pico, and there was more hype on Aaron Pico going into his pro debut than I can remember on any fighter in a long, long time. And I think that was to his detriment. He wasn't ready for what he got. And, he might now be kind of getting to that point where, he's ready to, to bring out all his talent, because when Aaron Pico puts it all together, man, he has everything you want in an elite mixed martial artist. I mean, he is really, 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 really good. Let's see here. What do we got? Gaethje versus Hooker. Who do you have? That is a tough call. I would ordinarily, say Justin Gaethje, right? But I am not crazy about him coming back as soon as he is. It's like 10 months out. He's now sparring. Hooker looked good in his last fight. I think Justin should have waited a little bit longer, and I wonder if he's a split second slower than he used to be. Right? He always got hit, but now he's getting hit that second time. He's getting hit clean. So I think that is something that we, I worry about. So I'm not going to pick that fight right now. I want to talk to some people about what they've seen out of Justin. I would ordinarily pick Justin in the fight, but, we shall see. So let's see. Anyways, what do we have here? Thanks for all the comments about Eric coming on. I should have put these up when he was on, so that he knew. Let's see. We'll put this one up. He has Hamzat submitting DDP to become the champion. I've got Shavkat beating Bilal. I like Bilal in that fight. The Poatan Ankalaev fight, I think, is a real fight. I probably am going to go with Pereira in that fight. But I want to do a lot of thinking. I'm going to watch some of the fights from the past. And I like Jones over Aspinall. I think Aspinall's phenomenal. He is not given enough credit outside of England, in my opinion, for how good he is. I think he'll, show that against John Jones. But boy, John Jones is a good fighter. He is so good. Let's see, what else do we have here? Chicago would be awesome for Bilal and Pena. I think Bilal is going to fight in Montreal. I mentioned that last week. It's certainly not a done deal, but that is in May, and I'm anticipating Bilal to be able to fight in May if his health is okay. I think that's where we will see that. So I think he is going to be there. Let's see. Bo said the fans were wrong in how they perceived the fight because people he has around him all told him it was going to be an amazing and dominant performance. Well, I mean, that's what the people do when they're promoting a fight, right? And they're trying to remember the coaches. It's one thing what the fighter says, right? But the coaches are all trying to bump up their guys and buck them up and make them confident and feel and they know their guys are reading the media and watching what's going on and what's being said, and they want their guy to be confident. They want their guy to go in there and say, hey, my coaches believe this strongly in me. So I don't like what people said. I'm not really sure that I give too much credit there. So let's see, what do we got? So if you look at Merab, so the question being about Merab, I think he's going to fight Sean O'Malley next. That is what my guess is going to be. We know that Ilia Topuria has got one fight maximum left at featherweight. I have said for a while that I think he's going to fight Volkanovski in Miami. If we don't hear that in the next couple of days, then I think I was wrong, and that it might end up being Islam Makhachev. So, watch, like, because tickets are going on sale for Miami fairly soon, and the UFC likes to have their main event fight ready, when they announce the card and tickets go on sale. So I don't think Ilya is an option for Merab. Like, so if you're suggesting Merab move up. So I'm looking at it and I'm saying, okay, I think O'Malley will be his next fight. There's going to be some other fights going on in there. So do you get another contender? Does Peter Yan beat somebody up top of the division? Does he beat a Sandhagen? Does he beat an Umar? He's just coming off that win over Davison. And I think, that'll be another guy. So that'll give him a year at bantamweight if he fights O'Malley +1, whoever that +1 might be. And then after that, we're going to assume that, somebody comes up and establishes themselves as a legitimate challenger. So what do we got here? I like Bilal over Shavkat as well. I don't want to say Shavkat is overrated, but you start with that fancy record and everybody starts to think you were unbeatable. And there are very few unbeatable fighters in any sport, but especially in MMA, where there's so many ways to win and to lose. The difference in boxing, like, let's say Floyd Mayweather, when he was at his peak, he was so much better. They didn't have many adjustments they could make. So Mayweather would start racking up these rounds, and there wasn't anything else they can do. But if you go into an MMA fight and you say, hey, I want to strike with Shavkat, and you find out that's not working, you can try to wrestle. You have a lot of different things that you can do. And the whole mixed part of it, comes into play, and it gives you a chance, like, okay, maybe this works today and that's not working. And I think that is something that I think will be in Bilal's favor in that fight, right? I like Bilal in the fight. Shavkat, I think, is a tremendous fighter, and if he wins the championship, I am not going to be shocked. But I think look at Bilal's record. Go back and look at Bilal's record and see what he has done, right? So I think that is something there. So let's see, what do we have? I've got Pereira over Magomed, and Aspinall versus Jones could be fight of the year. We will keep an eye on that. Do I have any idea of who Kai Asakura should fight next? He's down lower in the rankings, right? Joshua Van might not be a bad guy if you're going to go somebody down in the rankings. If you want to go up, I did not think Amir Al-Bazi. Amir Al-Bazi is top. Where is he at here? Number 3. Al-Bazi is in the top 5. Ranked number 3 right now. I thought he looked terrible against Brandon Moreno in Canada, and he's a guy that needs to beat somebody pretty good. Asakura being a guy that just came off a title fight, I think that would be. He would be a good opponent too. So those would be 2 names that I would throw out there. Cameron, how do you think Bud Crawford is going to do going up and facing Canelo? I have a story, first of all, on that. I talked to Freddie Roach and Teddy Atlas about how they think Crawford would do against Canelo. I said this from the moment the fight was made. I give Crawford a shot at the fight. And I don't know if anybody saw this, but Crawford put a picture on Super Bowl Sunday of himself standing on the scale, and he weighed 186 pounds. And I don't think too many people expected to see that. But I give when Crawford announced that he was fighting Errol Spence Jr., immediately I picked Crawford, and I said, no doubt he is going to win. I don't have that level of confidence as I go into Crawford versus Canelo in September. But I think, Teddy, I think it was Teddy Atlas, or maybe, no, it's Freddie Roach. Freddie Roach made the point yesterday. He said, it's not like Canelo has been fighting all these great opponents recently, right? His last 4 opponents, a very young Edgar Berlanga, Jaime Munguia, who was just moving up to 168 and, wasn't an A-plus fighter. Jamal Charlo was kind of at the end of the line, and John Ryder, who he shouldn't even have been fighting. Those guys, like, nah, compared to the guys he was fighting before in his career. And so Crawford is a legit guy. So I kind of think that's going to be a tough fight for Canelo. It'll be fun. I can't wait to see it. Yeah, Pantoja, they are so screwed with Pantoja. I think Pantoja is going to probably end up fighting Kai Kara France next. I don't think that fight's going to excite anybody, right? I don't think that's a fight that people see are going to go, oh man, I'm going to fly to Las Vegas to be able. Oh, do we have a Dana White sighting here? Hang on one second. Okay. I had invited Dana on. I was hoping it would be a surprise, but Dana's not going to be on. I sent him the link and said, hey, do me a favor, jump in and surprise us. But I guess we won't see him. But anyways, so, I think it's going to be Kai Kara France. And then, after that, I think if Brandon Moreno wins in Mexico City against Steve Erceg, I think, that the winner of Kara France and Pantoja would probably fight the winner of Moreno. Well, if Moreno wins, I don't think Erceg's going to get another title shot, but that is, going to be interesting. Who has a harder time going up a division, Ilia, Bilal, or Pantoja? I don't think Ilia is going to have any trouble going up in a division except who he's fighting, right? In terms of making the weight and being strong at the weight and being what he needs to be. Ilia is struggling to make 145 now. He's a big featherweight, so I don't think it's going to be an issue for Ilia going up. Now, the issue for Ilia is going to be, fighting Islam Makhachev, who, if Ilia is not the best fighter in the world, Islam Makhachev is the best fighter in the world, right? And so I think, to me, it would come down to Bilal or Pantoja. And again, I'm going to go by weight and not necessarily just competition. And I think it's got to be Bilal because, you're going up from 170 to 185. Those guys that are at 185, they're coming in at 225 to training camp, 230. They're big dudes. They're strong, and Bilal is a wrestler. And not that Bilal couldn't handle a lot of those guys, but I think, size starts to become an issue for him as you get, like DDP, some of the bigger middleweights. I think, could Bilal beat Strickland? Yes, I think he could beat Strickland, but like DDP to me is too big of a guy for him. I think Khamzat is too big for him, so those are some of the guys. Have I ever met Khamzat in person? Is he jacked? Yes, and I wouldn't say jacked, but he's one of those guys, like when you touch him, he feels like a rock. You just feel, Dana said that about somebody, I forget who, Imavov. Said he patted Imavov on the back and that, how hard Imavov was. Khamzat is like you touch him and it's like, he's made of granite. That's how he is. So he's not like this overly muscular bodybuilder guy. But I think he's, he's a big, solid guy at that weight class. And then your follow-up is Costa, way bigger than Khamzat. Costa is just a guy. I got to get rid of these goddamn pillows. I'm sorry. So you notice how low my chair is not up high enough. So I'm sitting on a couple extra pillows and they keep sliding out from under me. So screw them. I'm just going to sit on the chair and be down low here. And I think you guys know who I am, so I can take that off. So we'll be better off doing that. So anyway, sorry about that. But Costa is a big guy. And so I think that, he's probably a bigger guy, just weight wise. I think strength and muscle wise, I think, it would be Khamzat. Todd Picogram, aka Satan. Okay, Todd Picogram. Have you seen the news about fighters getting sick from the paint job in Saudi? Is it possible they did it on purpose to poison the fighters? What if Francis Ngannou was poisoned like that in the AJ fight? Well, I don't think Francis was poisoned like that in the AJ fight, number one, because it was at a different arena. Right, so that was a Kingdom Arena, and this was at Flash Arena, so they were two different arenas. Yeah, and if they did it on purpose to poison the fighters, but why would they want to poison the fighters? Like, I mean, dude, like, let's come up with something reasonable. If there is any kind of evidence to suggest something like that, okay, I'll think about it. But that's just like craziness, right? What reason would they have to poison Jairzinho Rozenstruik or who was the other one, that Mike Davis, right? Like what they have no anything there. So that is something to me that I didn't think. So, and what do we got here? Why do you keep it so real when that could be cause for getting blacklisted? I am, whether you like me or don't like me, whether you think I'm an idiot or I'm smart, whatever. I am me all the time, and I say what I think. I try to be educated on as many of the facts as I can, right? Like on fights, it's opinion. So if I think, DDP is going to beat Strickland, and I say that, yeah, the Strickland fans get mad. I say that with no malice. I say it because that's what I think. But when we get into some of these other issues that we're talking about, yeah, I try to get the facts, get the background, know as much as I can, and then I just say what I think. And some people disagree, some people agree, and that's what makes the world go around, I guess, right? What are your thoughts on Zhang Weili having to drop the strawweight belt if she goes up to challenge Shevchenko? I don't think she should have to do that. Like, I think, Dana has done that in the past. Dana's been inconsistent on that, right? And so I wish they would clarify sort of how they want to have that going forward, and then just do it the same way all the time. But having said that, I think the fair thing from my standpoint would be to say to Zhang Weili, okay, we'll let you fight for the second title. If you win it, now you have, 3 choices. I'm going to drop the 25-pound belt and just go back to 15. I'm going to drop the 15 belt and go up to 25, or I will defend both, right? I think that give her that option. And so after she wins, like, give her, a month to make a decision. And to me, that is the fairest thing, that, that could be done. So anyways, let's pop some of these other questions up. If I'm happy to bring in some boxing questions. So pop those in if you have any. In hindsight, do you agree with Weili being the underdog was silly? No, I don't believe it, because I don't think the bookmakers are making the lines saying who they think is going to win. They're making the lines based on where they think the money is going to go, right? So, very rarely do the bookmakers make a line where they take an opinion and say, we really feel that, Kevin is going to lose to this guy, so we're going to make the line a certain way, right? That is not, sort of how they do business. So I just don't think that, that the line, it was just a reflection of what they thought the public was going to do. All the talk about the wrestling and everything was something there. So let's see. What do you think about Dana going on and on about free speech while also banning certain journalists and media members from accessing UFC press events and stuff like that? So I'm assuming you were talking about Ariel Helwani. When Ariel Helwani couldn't get into the UFC back in 2007 or 2008, I went to Dana, and I don't want to say I got him in, but I talked to Dana and said, this guy should be credentialed to be in the UFC, and he got in. And in 2016, when Ariel got banned at UFC 199, I called Dana and Lorenzo Fertitta both, and I said, this is outrageous that, a journalist got banned for putting news out. Now, later, I changed my stance slightly, and I don't want to say this because I'm not trying to create an issue between me and Ariel, because there's no issue between me and Ariel. But he went on a show, and he said he was paid by the UFC. He was working for Fox, but his checks were coming from the UFC. He thought that was acceptable, and I didn't think it was acceptable. I thought, if you're getting paid by the promoter, you're working for the promoter. And so I changed my position on his situation for that reason. But in general, I am in favor of journalists, and I will fight for journalists who get banned unfairly for what I think is unfairly for reporting opinions or reporting news that that somebody doesn't want to get out. But as far as I know, and maybe I'm wrong on this, but as far as I know, that has not happened. Believe it or not, it's hard to believe, but like that Ariel thing at UFC 199 is almost 9 years ago now. So I don't think that. What was the beef between Loretta Hunt and Dana White about? He didn't like her book, and so and he thought that she was favoring, Randy Couture and certain other fighters against him, and so that was primarily what her issue was, or what his issue was with her. Where do I think Usyk places on the all-time heavyweight list, and who will he fight next? Who would I like to see him fight next? I think he's going to fight the Daniel Dubois fight, the Parker Dubois fight, which is next week. Especially if Dubois wins. I guess I should say. I keep saying Dubois. If Dubois wins, I think that would be the fight that I would want to see him take. Right now, I don't think there's a clear choice other than Dubois. I guess Joe Parker, if he beats Dubois, that's a big win for him. So, we can put him in that fight right now. But as far as going to him in the all-time heavyweight list, I think, he's starting to make himself, getting up there in the top 15, maybe the bottom of the top 10. But I think it's fair to wait until the end of his career is done. I think that is the best. That is the thing, because we don't know who else he's going to fight, right? I mean, he fought most of his career as a cruiserweight. So I'll pop this on the screen here. I don't know if you're asking me what I think of a prime Tyson, or what do I think a prime Tyson would do against Usyk. I think Usyk would outbox a prime Tyson, right? Tyson had the power and could have caught him. But think of Mike's career, right? So Mike was 37-0. Today is actually the 35th anniversary of when he lost to Buster Douglas. He went into that fight 37-0, and then he fought 20 more fights after that, and he went 13-7. And Mike, after that, lost almost all his big fights, right? The guys that, were the toughest and the guys that you thought would give him trouble, he lost to, Evander Holyfield twice, Lennox Lewis, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so, Steve, I think if Usyk fought a prime Mike Tyson, Usyk is a good enough boxer that he would beat him. But, Tyson had that power, and that's, one of the things that I like there. So anyways, let's see, what do we got? Well, I make a video on the February 22nd boxing card, similar to Usyk Fury video. I am going to do a lot on that fight card. I think that might be since I've been alive, one of the best fight cards, that I can even remember. I mean, you think there's 6 fights on that card that are going to be just incredible, right? I think that I will be doing that. So let's see here. What else do we have? Are you a guy that is in this for the long haul, where you retire eventually? So what is the long haul? Until they stick me in a box, right? I'm probably going to do this. I'm having fun, right? So I got laid off from Yahoo in December of 23, after almost 18 years there. And 17 years there. And I loved my time at Yahoo, especially my first half of my time there. We had an unbelievable staff. A lot of the guys are at ESPN that are covering their top sports now. We had Adrian Wojnarowski, we had Jeff Passan, Greg Wyshynski was our hockey guy. We had so many good people working for us then, and we had a blast. And we had an unlimited budget. We were pretty much able to exceed it. My last couple of years weren't as fun as that other time, but I enjoyed my time at Yahoo. And so I thought, when I was on my own, I was nervous and I wasn't, and I love this, right? I wake up every morning and I do what I want to do, right? And so I love it. And that is something that, I don't want to walk away from it right away. Now, something may happen. I may just get sick of it, in a year or two, or, who knows what, and walk away. But right now, my plan is to work for, another three years or so. Do I ever travel for fight nights or stay in Vegas for the most part? I try to go to fights. Since I'm working on my own, I'm paying for all those trips, right? A lot of the journalists that go to Saudi Arabia are being paid by to go over there. I am not. And so if I go to Saudi Arabia, it's my own time. And so I don't think at this stage of my site, keviniole.com, that I can afford to do that. So I don't, but I'm trying to go to fight cards that are big cards that are in the United States or Canada that I can go to and that I can reasonably afford, right? So that's the answer to that question. Dana blacklists any journalist who dares to stray from the approved line. Tell me who. I mean, there's nothing but I don't know that I would agree with either part of your question, Rick. But who else has been blacklisted since Ariel? I mean, maybe there's somebody that's been blacklisted that I don't know about, but tell me who it is. And secondly, I'll just say nothing but softball questions. That might be more to do with the people asking the questions than anybody. I don't think anybody is afraid, afraid of that. Yeah, Josh Gross, it was over 10 years ago. I'll tell you a story. Josh Gross, right? Josh is a friend of mine. I'm not saying this to rip Josh. This was 2007. So what is that? 18 years ago. I was walking into a restaurant that no longer exists in Mandalay Bay here in Las Vegas to meet Dana. And I came from this parking garage and Dana came from this parking garage, and now we met and we're walking toward the restaurant. And one of the things that I wanted to say to Dana was, hey, don't ban Josh Gross, right? And so we walk in, we sit at a table, and I said, Dana, thank you for coming. I really wanted to talk to you about Josh Gross. And before I could say anything else, he said, I wouldn't credential Josh Gross if he was writing in the sports editor of the Wall Street Journal. So before I could even ask him, he shut that down. But that was 18 years ago. Ariel's situation was almost 9 years ago. So let's not go back into ancient history. Though, we've litigated that. I've written stories about that. That is a long time ago. Let's talk about now. So, I mean, I don't think anybody really cares about it because I don't see anybody else popping in and commenting on it. But, I just don't think that that's a fair assessment right now, right? So, but if there is somebody, I'll consider it. Let's see. Do I think Strickland still has it? Can he go toe-to-toe with Kyle or Whitaker? I think those are both tough fights for him. Strickland to me was an underdog, right? And think of what he did. Let me just pull his fight record up so we can talk about it. I think he went up and he had that big win over Imavov, and I think that was a really good win for him. But let's look at at some of what he's done here. So his last couple of fights, win over Imavov, very impressive. Abus Magomedov, he beats Adesanya to win the championship. That was a shocking upset. Loses it to Du Plessis, comes back and beats Costa, and then loses to DDP in the rematch. I think Strickland is a guy that maximized everything he had, and you can make an argument like the Imavov fight was a light heavyweight fight. There was some crazy stuff going on that week. So I'm not throwing it out. He performed, but there's things there. Costa is not the strongest guy mentally, right? And I think Strickland kind of broke him down. And Strickland had that disciplined style that's going to beat a wild, crazy guy that fights the way he does, like Paulo Costa does. And I think he caught Adesanya at the exact right time. I'm not blasting Sean, but I'm saying, Sean, I don't think was one of those elite champions, right? Sean was a good champion, but then you have good champions, and you have the GSPs and the Demetrius Johnsons and those kind of people who were super elite. And I don't think that that he was in that position, right? So so that is where I would say about that. So I think Kyle Barallo and Whitaker are tough fights for him, but I think he's still a solid fighter in this, in that thing. Is the Apex open to the public for workouts? No, Apex is an arena and it's next to the UFC offices, and you hear them talk about the Performance Institute. That is connected to the UFC office. So if you're on the 215 in Las Vegas, you will see the UFC office, then there's an empty lot, and then you'll see Apex. Apex is an arena and a production studio. Then the UFC Performance Institute is where the fighters go and train, and that is open to fight UFC fighters, and then anybody else that Dana invites in. So there have been, Raiders players go in there and train. There have been, the Winnipeg Jets hockey team when they were playing in the summer before training camp, they came in and were there. But it's mainly for UFC fighters. Let's see. It's been a while since I interviewed you and asked you this, but what are you looking to add to your content offerings that you don't create now? I know I've been saying this for a while, but I will have an audio podcast on boxing, MMA, and then betting on combat sports. I'm going to sign a deal. I can't give all the details out, but a site. My site's going to stay the same. It's going to own by me, but it's going to be somebody that has an aggregation of other sites like mine. And once that gets done, they have an expert at podcast and audio, and I'm going to do audio on there and release it in podcast form. So I guess that would be something that I would do there. So let's see. Any chance to remove the 265-pound weight limit? No, that will not happen. Let's see. Mickey Gall bit Diego Sanchez and wasn't cut, but Igor was. Double standards. Okay. How do you no, that is that's just ridiculous. I mean, a guy bites somebody in a fight, and I was sitting right there. I saw him do it. It was like 10 feet from me, 15 feet from me. I mean, so I think we're getting to the end of the line because some of these, questions are repeating and everything. So I am going to end it right here. Do we like doing this at night? I guess I will do this next week. We'll figure out another time. But yeah, I think, we'll try to do them at night. I apologize for the microphone at the beginning. I am not sure what the hell happened there, but I am glad we got that rolling. So anyways, gang, have a good one. Appreciate your patience and being with me, and we will see y'all soon.